Alright, now for the good stuff. I'm going to set up a basic scene using V-Ray. For exterior scenes like this one I'm doing, the lighting is very simple. So we're going to go over that right now. If you go to Create tab, Lights, drop down to V-Ray, and go to V-Ray Sun. Now we can, okay, so if my camera's on this side looking at that way, I usually like to put my sun somewhere over here, coming from the opposite angle. Make sure and get some contrast in your scene by showing, and this is a general rule, you don't know, it's fun to break the rule sometimes. Sorry, you know what? I should have mentioned what I just did there. I was going to say make sure and get some contrast in your scene, so there's some parts that are in direct light and some are in shadow. So that's a general rule. If you go from this side and light it like that, it will ask you, would you like to automatically add a V-Ray sky environment map? Yes, is the answer there. So now there's a V-Ray sky that is tied to this V-Ray sun, and if you go here to rendering environment, you'll see our default V-Ray sky that it just placed in there for us. Now if you bring up your materials and instance this over by holding down shift while you drag it, instance it, that's what that sky looks like right now. And the reason why is because the V-Ray sun comes in very, very bright. It's set up by default to work with these cameras with their exposure turned on, but I'm not going to get into all that. I'll just show you how I do it. I take my sun and I usually set it, instead of intensity multiplier, to 1. I'm in the modify tab for my sun. I usually set it to about 0.05. for the intensity multiplier. Go to the right view. Now the sun will change colors and intensity based on where it is in the sky, so it's actually calculating based on the angle of the sun how intense it's going to be. So if you, for example, if you put it way up high straight up, it's going to think it's noonday, so it's going to make it real bright. You put it down here, it knows that it's kind of sunset or dusk. Now this sky doesn't seem to be linked to my sun, so let's do that. So if I hit specify sun node, and remember I instanced this, so whatever I'm doing here, it's affecting it in my environment background. So what that's telling me is this map, this sky map, is what my background's going to be. So just as a note, that is going to show up in the background of my scene, but it's also lighting my scene, lighting the environment of my scene. That's how V-Ray works. So all my global illumination is coming from that sky. It's like a giant dome of light, just like in reality. So a huge dome of light that is putting off global illumination. And if you don't know what that means, don't worry, I'll kind of show you that as we go along. So specify sun node, sunlight, none right now. We need to click on that and then click the sun right there. Intensity multiplier 0.05. And there you can see. Now that's changing a little bit. So if you change this to 0.01, you can see that's giving it more of a dusk feel. We want it the same as our sun here. So we actually don't want to be able to adjust both of these. So if you now turn this off, now that they're linked, now whatever we do here, it will actually adjust, it'll change the sky. So that's how we want it set up. So I kind of like that 0.02 intensity. Actually, we probably want it about 0.03. That's more like in the middle of the day a little bit. So our sky is set up, and usually when you put the sun in, if you don't delete it like I did when I first put it in, if you put your first sun in and just click yes, put a sky in, it'll have them linked together properly. Okay, so that's all you have to do to light a scene in V-Ray basically, is put in a V-Ray sun, and it will create the sky for you, and everything will kind of look right. If we do a quick render of it, you'll see that everything doesn't look entirely right, so I'll show you a few more things that we need to do, but in general, the lighting, that's the only light we need to put in there. Okay, I opened up my render setup, which is this button right here. I went to V-Ray, no, I went to GI, turned that on, and then hit render. Everything else was default, and this is what I'm getting right now. You can see here what that global illumination does with that sky in there as the background. It's actually casting light that is the color of the sky into all my shadow areas. So you can see, for example, like right here, there's no direct light getting there, but light from that sky is kind of being pushed into there and lighting up the shadow areas. I'll show you what it looks like if your GI is not turned on. And this is one of the, there's a lot of global illumination renders out there, most renderers are now, but V-Ray is one of the fastest and best ones. So let me show you what it looks like if you turn that global illumination off. Okay, that's what it looks like without any global illumination. You can see it looks terrible. So basically, global illumination means that when light is coming in from the sun, light rays are coming in, they're bouncing off things like this patio and then bouncing up into the shadow areas. And also these background lights, this huge sky dome, is also going to be casting light with global illumination on. So that's how you get the realistic stuff. So make sure that's on. And then render, and you'll get this. There you go. That's what it looks like with the sky putting off the proper light and the light bouncing around as it's supposed to. So we will go into much more render settings, but I wanted to show you how to just set up a basic sun and a sky. And you can see that that's really all you need to do to get the lighting looking right in here. We do have one problem where the sky is actually casting light from down below the building up onto the bottom of the ceiling and the bottom of the deck here, and that's because we don't have a ground to block it yet. But we'll fix that problem as we go. But as far as lights go, that's all we need to do. Set up a sky and a sun. Let's check one other thing real quick. In global illumination, no. In V-Ray, color mapping, no. Environment. This GI environment can actually override, I'll show you that sky. So if you click this on and make it, say, red, what that's going to do is override the background sky that we have in there, this default sky. So remember I said that was casting light in the color of the sky. Now it's going to be overridden here. So we'll still see that sky in the background, but the light coming is going to be this bright purple stuff. I'll show you what that looks like, and then you'll just know to watch out for that and override it if you intend to. Make sure it's off if you don't intend to. Here you can see some of the GI work happening. And you can see the colors are all out of whack because my sky dome is casting a bright purple color. So I do use that override quite a bit, but not for this kind of thing. But you might find uses for it as you go. But if you want something to look real accurate to go with your sun just right, then you can just use that sky and it'll be right on the money. So there you see now my light is, there's still light in the shadow areas, but it's like a deep purple light instead. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how to set up just a basic sun and a sky. And we'll move forward from here with some more setup of our scene for rendering, for proper rendering.